What's going on? Albie with Albie Fitness Gaming, and you've seen the title of the video and you know why you're here. Green, white, death, and taxes. So, this is the list that I've been playtesting. It's been doing pretty good. We'll go over one of the most recent games that I just had in just a little bit. But before we do that, I just want to talk about a little bit about the deck here. Go over some of the card choices, why they're there, and why some are not there. So, right off the top, one thing you're going to notice is there is no Aether Vials. There are no collected companies. We're not playing the gimmick cards. Those are probably the cards that you look at and you say, hey, this is the main staple of the deck. Why are you not playing it, bro? Why not, bro? Well, I'm going to explain to you why not. So, before we get into that, let's go ahead and go over the lands, get this out of the way. First of all, we're playing 23 lands. Because we have no vials, and we're only playing 4 nobles. But it's 4 forest, a Gavany Township, which I'm still debating on whether or not I want a Gavany Township there. That might turn into a Cavern of Souls, possibly, or just another forest, or maybe a Dried Arbor. Because we have 4 Ghost Quarters and 4 Horizon Canopies, we're not, we only have 4 mana dorks. So, we're not, I've never really activated Gavany Township, guys, to be honest. I never fetch for it. I never have enough mana activated. I'm usually playing spells or fetching out Horizon Canopies and drawing additional cards to look for answers. I think the card is fine in the deck, but I don't think it's the optimal choice. So I do think I'm going to eventually replace the Gavany Township, but I am just showing you here because I haven't decided what I want to put there. The Cavern is decent because you can, with human, it can help you cast your Noble Hierarchs, your Thalias, and your Knight of Reliquaries as humans through counter. Also, it can give you double white for Skyclave, but that's one of the lower ranked cards that I'm looking at. I'm probably going to go with like a Dried Arbor or maybe just a 5th Forest. I haven't really decided yet. Or maybe we just cut the land altogether and add a Birds. Who knows? So we got the 4 Ghost Quarters, the 4 Horizon Canopies, 2 Plains, 2 Temple Gardens, 4 Winds of Heat, and 2 Wooded Foothills. Obviously, green fetch lands, doesn't matter what you play there. Then for our 1-drops, we got the 4 Giver of Ruins. We got the 4 Path to Exiles, and we got the 4 Noble Hierarchs. Noble Hierarchs, obviously here, Exalted, accelerates your game plan, helps it cast equipment a lot faster. Giver of Ruins protects the team. You also usually close out the game with a singleton Knight of the Reliquary, which Giver of Ruins is really good with because you can give it protection from whatever your opponent has defense to and just get in and annihilate them. So that's that. Then for the 2-drops, we have the Stoneforge Mystic, and that's going to come with the Stoneforge Mystic package. The one that everybody I see is using, probably the best right now, which is the Batterskull, the Skyclave Sword, and the Fire and Ice Sword. Depending on the deck, if it's more of a control deck, you probably want to use Sword of Feast and Famine because it allows you to untap your lands and keep your counter magic up. But for aggressive decks, you want the Fire and Ice, in my opinion. You got the 4 Thalias. This is your disruption, your creature disruption. Right here, this is going to help you slow down other spell-based decks, burn, sometimes blitz. It can help, but their creatures are like Thalia doesn't have any really good play against their creatures, and they play a lot of removal so they can eat. But so I usually replace Thalia whenever I play against that deck with Voice, but we keep her in the deck. She does what we needed to do, which is slow down our opponent by a turn to allow us to get ahead. 2 Quasali Pride Mage, really good with Exalted. Also, utility. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. There's a lot of relevant enchantments and artifacts that sometimes we don't want to use our Skyclave for, so we can use the Pride Mage. Just another way to attack those type of decks. We have the Archon. We have 3. The Archon goes really good with Thalia because Thalia making all their spells cost 1, and this only limiting them to doing 1 spell a turn, and their lands come in tapped really slows down the opponent. It's a really good combination. And then you have the Giver of Ruins to protect these pieces, really protect all your pieces, but you protect these lock pieces here. And this is pretty much your Death and Taxes lock right here. Okay, and then we have the Skyclave. Amazing card. I think this is the reason that these green-white decks or mono-white decks are where they are right now, is because this card just pretty much answers anything in the format that used to be problematic. You don't have to worry about splashing different colors to get certain answers. Like Skyclave just hits everything, pretty much everything you need to worry about. And then of course we have Knight of the Reliquary. We have all the utility lands. They're pretty much the same, but you know, if we're flooding, we can just draw a bunch of Horizon Canopies to draw a bunch of cards. We can disrupt our opponent with Ghost Quarters, getting rid of some of their important lands. And then we can get in with a massive Knight using the Giver of Ruins. Then we have a singleton Questing Beast. So we were missing one card in the slot. I did not want it to be a 3-drop. I did not really, I mean, maybe a Tracker. We could probably play a Tracker, a Hex Drinker. But I think having a singleton Questing Beast, something that could just come in, take out Planeswalkers, you know, really aggressive threat. One of, since we are going to be drawing a decent amount of cards because we do play 4 Horizon Canopies and we are fetching, so we are thin on our deck a lot when it comes to lands, and we're getting swords. So I mean, you're going to see it more often than not, more than other normal decks. So one copy I think is fine. Just a good card. For the sideboard, we have Winds of Abandonment. Any decks that want to go wide, Elves, Merfolk. You can also use it as a 1-for-1 removal against other decks. Aven Mind Sensor, just a solid creature. Decks where you don't need certain creatures, easily replace with Aven Mind Sensor. It's always at its worst a 4 out of 10, which is good enough for these style of decks. Iron Rhetoric, just another good card to slow down combo. We do have the Archon, so maybe we don't need this card here. It's just that I played it for so long that I still keep it in there, but maybe we can start freeing up this slot here for the 15. Because we do have 3 of these copies that pretty much do the same thing. Then we have 3 Voice of Resurgence, the most busted card in Magic's history. It should be banned in all formats, and they should stop the printing immediately. Auto Scoop whenever it hits the battlefield. So Voice of Resurgence is your value creature. It's really good against aggressive decks, some control decks, decks that Thalia falls short on. You usually replace the Thalias with the Voice of Resurgences here. Then we have Knight of Autumn, just a catch-all, really good card. Again, one of those cards that can replace some of your bad creatures here. You can either use it as a threat when you use the counters. You can use it as an additional way to get rid of artifacts or enchantments. Or you can use it against super aggressive decks where you can gain life. And then, of course, for Tormod's Crypt, that is our graveyard hate. We don't play Rest in Peace because we play Knight of the Reliquary. So this is our next bet here, next best thing to play for Graveyard Hate. So now that we have an, so let's talk about why we're not using Vial and Collected Company. So playing Collected Company, first of all, you have to get rid of like Giver of Ruins. Maybe you play a couple and you have to add birds. You get rid of Thalia, so you're not really using disruptive creatures anymore. So you're probably going to use Voice of Resurgence in there. You get rid of the Archon because like the card's good, but it ain't gonna. It's like at its best when you put it together with Thalia and when you're able to protect it with Giver of Ruins, because it can pretty much, these 2 cards in play protected can like shut down a lot of decks. If we were to play Collected Company, this deck would look completely different, because Collected Company, when you're playing it in a mid-range green-white deck, it's good if you use it as hate bears, but its real strength is when you focus it on generating value. When you're playing things like Tracker, Ramanap Excavator, Voice of Resurgence, Eternal Witness, things that are going to generate value, and that's how you're going to win the game. Again, the card is okay, it's good when you play it with hate bear style decks, but it's going to be at its best when you're playing it with value creatures. That's why we're not playing it in this deck. It would just require us to remove a lot of pieces that takes away from that Death and Taxes feel, that gimmick that we're looking for. Aether Vile. Aether Vile, really great card. It's played in all the mono white Death and Taxes list. Now, the card is slow. It's very slow, right? It takes a couple turns for you to actually start getting everything going. The reason Aether Vile is so good in the mono white versions is because you have Leonin Arbiter, you have Thala, you have the Archon, so you have a lot of your early spells can slow down the opponent, which gives you time to set up your Aether Vile. We don't play Leonin Arbiter, so we're going to be not taking full advantage of Aether Vile. Our Aether Viles are going to be as slow, but we're not going to have those disrupted elements like the mono white Death and Taxes list to be able to take advantage and not worry about setting up the Aether Vile. So instead we're playing the Noble Hierarch, which is going to allow us to accelerate our game plan. A second turn Archon or Knight of the Reliquary is always really good. Or even like or even a Noble into a Giver and a Stoneforge or a Thalia is also really good. It allows us to be more consistent. Also, if you draw this, turn 3 Questing Beast is also really good. The additional mana also allows you to equip and cast these a lot easier and use your Horizon Canopies a lot more aggressively. That is why we do not use the Aether Vile in this deck. The Noble Hierarchs are just better. They're superior. So anyways, let's get into the matchup here that I have recorded here for you guys. It's against Mill. Maximize this here. There we go. Alright, so opening hand here, we got Knight of the Reliquary, Temple Garden, Path to Exile, Kozali Pride Mage, 3 Forest. Hand is decent, 4 out of 10 at best. But you know what? That's why you play these decks. You're not going to do anything busted, but you're still going to win most of the time. So opponent most to 4. The chances of us winning this game now have gone up drastically, even though our hand is mediocre. But again, it all really depends on the deck they're playing. So we draw fetch land, good for us. That's going to allow us to grow our knight. So with this fetch land, we want to grab a Temple Garden. At this point, I don't know what the opponent's playing. I don't really know what they're playing. I'm assuming it's some type of snow deck or Ice Fangs, but that's it. That's all I'm really thinking right now. So we draw the Thalia. We're like, alright, these colors look like spell-based deck type colors. So we're like, you know what, let's cast the Thalia over the Pride Mage. And I believe they counter this. Yep, remand, put it back in our hand. So we're like, okay, that's fine. We still have our Thalia for next turn, but we're not going to do that. Depending on what they do here, we're definitely really interested in just putting down our Knight of the Reliquary to start pressuring our opponent. Then I see this guy, Coiling Oracle. I'm a little confused. At this point, I have no idea what's going on. Never seen this deck. I'm like, okay, I see counter spells, I see, you know, green blue, and I see Coiling Oracle. All I'm thinking, okay, this may be some type of like value blink deck, maybe, because since they do have snow permanents, they are going to have Ice Fang, so that's what I'm thinking right now. So now we're going to have a 4/4 Knight. And we're going to be able to start pressuring our opponent here. So now when the crab comes down, I realize, okay, so this is some type of mill deck. But they're playing Coiling Oracle and remands, so they're not going to be aggressively milling me as much as like the actual mill decks. I believe they're just blue-black. But I'm not 100% sure, you know, are these 1-ofs that they just happen to draw? Is it 2-ofs? I'm not sure. So, but just putting the pieces together, I already know, like, this is not your typical run-of-the-mill metagame deck. It's just, it looks like a brew. So, usually our deck is good against brews like this because brews usually take pieces from different decks and they kind of like mash them up together most of the time. So it dilutes the game plan of a lot of decks, so it actually makes it a little bit easier for us to play against them. So this right here looks like me, like they're trying to mash mill with value you know, to generate value and extra land drops. And, you know, I don't think it's probably as effective as just playing the blue-black version, but I don't know. I don't play that deck. But to me right now, things are looking good. So we're getting in with the Knight, 4/4. We have the Ghost Quarter up. So we could start accelerating our Knight and getting them a lot bigger. We have the Path to Exile to get rid of that crab. We don't want to just run it in because, again, I don't really know what this person's playing. So we draw another path here. So after drawing the other path, I'm like, you know what, let's just aggressively path this crab and just try to close out this game as fast as possible. There's no reason to you know, not. Especially because we don't know what they're really playing. There's a lot of savages out there in the modern MTG scene, and they play crazy stuff. So holding on to the Ghost Quarter here, I don't want to expose it to them because I don't want them to calculate damage. We can easily get that Ghost Quarter in and put 2 lands in the bin and get in for an additional 2. So it's always good to hold on to your Ghost Quarters if that's your plan of attack, because it doesn't allow them to calculate the damage that you're going to get through, but you know what you're going to get through. So here we're like, all right, we're going to get rid of the Stoneforge package. The reason we're getting rid of the Stoneforge package is because I don't think it's going to be necessary in this matchup. I also don't like the idea of us fetching things out of our deck because we're playing against Mill, so we want to keep as many cards as we can in our deck. And then, of course, we add the Winds of Abandonment to get rid of those crabs and any other maybe weird creatures that they may play. And then we just add the additional 4 Tormod's Crypt. So the reason I do that is because there's this card that Mill plays. I forgot what it's called, but it basically, you like gain like, I think like 2 or 3 life or something crazy like that for every creature in your graveyard. And these guys can gain like, you know, 20, 30, 40 life, which gives them enough time to win the game. Now, we didn't see black, but maybe they didn't show us. So to me, Tormod's Crypt is good because they do play that card. To me, I feel like that's the only card that can really destroy us. So with Tormod's Crypt, it's free. It's an additional card which helps us against Mill. And if anything, we can just get rid of our graveyard and avoid losing to that. So we're going to go ahead. We have a good hand here, starting off with the Noble Hierarch, which is going to allow us to play our Knight of the Reliquary second turn, which is really good against these mill decks or combo-based decks because when it comes to those type of decks, we need to close out the game fast. And this is another reason why we remove the Stoneforge Mystic. 1, it removes cards from your deck. 2, it's very slow. It's like a mid-range type card. And against mill-style decks or any combo-based decks, we're the aggressor. We're trying to slow them down, but we're also trying to close out the game as fast as possible before they get their deck up and running. So opponent thought scours us. Mill is, you know, sometimes like when we have starts like this where we have the Noble Hierarch and we can play second turn Knight, sometimes, man, they just mill all your lands into your yard. Like I remember one time they milled me, I forgot the name of the card, but it's when you search, they mill you for like 13. Well, they had 2 of them, so they milled me for like 26 cards. And I played my Knight second turn, and he was like a 12-12 already, you know. And we were able to close down the game really fast, even though the opponent had a great start. All right, Knight of the Reliquary here. A 5/5 on the second turn. Not too bad, not too shabby. We have the Horizon Canopy, and we have another Knight here, and we have a Path. So we have a pretty good way of closing the game very fast here, and we still have 49 cards in our deck. We are treating this matchup as a mill matchup because it looks like that is their main way of winning the game. I haven't seen any other cards that, you know, pose a threat as far as a win condition. So here, the Tribe Elder. So here the game plan is, we're going to attack. We know they're going to block. So once they sack, in response to the trigger, we path the crab. And to be honest, because they're milling us at such a slow pace, I was actually thinking, like, do we even want to get rid of this crab? Maybe we just allow the crab to get some more cards in our yard. Maybe we can get like 3 or 4 more lands in our deck and really just close out the game a turn earlier. But I was just like, you know what? We have 2 knights. Let's just close this out. Because again, when you're playing against like these brews, you don't know what these savages in the MTG world of Modern are playing. So there it is. They're going to be able to get 2 lands here, 4 cards in hand, but they have no board. But they do have spells. So here we play the second knight, and then next turn, depending on what we draw, we're probably just going to go with the 2 Voice of Resurgence. Just in case they play something at instant speed, we can at least get some tokens in there and definitely close out the game in a couple turns. That's what I'm thinking right now. So they play this guy. I'm like, okay, they're going to draw a card, possibly get another land, and now they have a chump blocker. That's fine. So they're going to basically give themselves another turn. Here's how I'm looking at it. And again, because I do think we're playing against a deck that wins by milling us, because they're not milling us this turn, I'm just like, okay, it looks like they're just turning their wheels, but we can't just like disregard the fact that they could be playing some randomness that can end the game. So we get in with the knights here. No need to play the Voice of Resurgences before attacking. They have 1 land open, a green and a blue. I can't think, maybe Dot Scour, but that's not really going to affect us. And if they were going to play that, they'll just play it in response to the voices. So 2 voices at our second main phase here. Plan is, okay, we're just going to try to end the game next turn. Opponent does have 6 cards in their hand, and they have 5 lands. So again, we're getting into that territory now where, and they pass turn here without doing anything. So we're getting into that territory now where I'm like, okay, they're not milling us. They're a mill deck. What is going on? Whatever, we have 2 voices, so whatever they do, we're going to get something. And here we go! So they play this. We get the 2 tokens. I honestly was not expecting this card, the Aether Spouts. So I just say, you know what, let me just go ahead and put these lands in the graveyard. So I misclicked there. I was supposed to obviously destroy the Temple Garden that I tapped, but I mean it doesn't even matter really. So my thought process, I mean, I guess I should have held the Horizon Canopy, allowed them to put the cards back on our library, put the knight up, and then use the Horizon Canopy and draw the knight. That would have been the correct play, because the knights are the only cards that we really care about. And it could have been very disastrous for us because, I mean, we do have the voices that can close out the game now, the tokens. But what could have happened, obviously, is they could have milled those cards to our graveyard. So that was a small little misplay there. But we do not get punished for it, which is good. But again, we do have 2 of the tokens that are going to grow very, very fast. Pretty much any creature we play now. Opponent not giving up the ghost too easily. They're continuing to play creatures that generate some type of value. Because the show must go on, folks. The show must go on. So Voice of Resurgence there, showing its power, showing its bustedness. It's, you know, why the card is so ridiculously strong. It's the reason a lot of decks, a lot of cards have been banned. You know, it's the reason they don't allow the Power 9 in Modern, is because of Voice of Resurgence. So Noble Hierarchy are going to turn them into 4/4s, and then the Knight going to turn them into 5/5s. As you can see, the power of the Voice of Resurgence tokens taking over now. I'm assuming opponent is going to go for a double block here. Opponent still has a lot of cards in hand. They could have another Aether Spout. That can be a problem for us. Let's just hope that is a one of that they luckily drew from drawing all their cards. So next turn we got 2 5/5s and a possible 10/10 Knight of the Reliquary. If they don't have the mana available, but if they did have the mana available for another Aether Spout, I would only attack with the Knight. And we're going to hold on to this Tormod's Crypt here, and there it is. We take them out. Well, there you have it. There's a gameplay there for my green-white Death and Taxes. Let me know if you know what the deck we were playing against, what it's called, you know, what's its gimmick. I'm assuming it was some type of mill deck. Also, let me know what you think about my green-white Death and Taxes deck. I probably played about 15 games, maybe 10 actual games, you know, without people prematurely conceding, or me just drawing nothing but creatures or all lands and having to concede. But probably a solid 8 or 10 games I've played with it, and I think I've only lost like once or twice. So the deck has been phenomenal. It's been very, very good. But if you're a green-white player out there, or a mono-white Death and Taxes player, please give me your feedback. Let me know what you play. Let me know what changes you think I should be making, you would like to see me make. Don't forget to like my videos, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you know whenever I post new things. And again, guys, thank you so much for the love and support, and peace out. Bah!